Hi everyone, welcome back to Economic Street. I'm Ola.
And I'm Nicholas.
And we're the show that brings the city to the street, helping you understand your finances better, so you can then make decisions to better yourselves financially. Now today we're going to be taking you through the economic system and 3 central themes that are important to the economic system. Now the reason we want to do this is because if you can really get a good grasp of what the economic system is and how it functions, it would really help you understand how to manage your finances better and how to relate to what they say in the media. So what we're going to be discussing today are 3 key themes: credit, interest rates, and inflation. And they're all interlinked, as you can see. And the reason that these are important is because these are basically the building blocks of the economic and financial system. And it really does run on these 3 core principles. So the first one we're going to tackle is credit. Now, Nick, can you just explain what credit is?
Yeah, so what credit is essentially borrowing. You're borrowing against your future self. So in the sense of what it is, the bank will be lending you money through either credit cards, mortgages for your houses, personal loans, or loans for car financing. So what you're essentially doing, you're borrowing money now that you will pay back at a later date. So credit is easily influenced by interest rates and inflation, which Ola will go on to discuss.
Cool. So again, literally the building block of the economic system is credit. Like what you think money is in terms of paper money is actually credit. Most money in the system is credit. And the reason it's important is because it allows you to borrow pretty much against your future self. You can borrow now,
Pay back at a later date.
And pay back at a later date. So 5 years, 10 years down the line, and it just helps you to be able to literally live beyond your means. But it's really important to know how to then manage credit and use it effectively to your advantage.
As you said about effectively, because if used correctly, it can actually smooth out your finances. So if you can manage and understand credit correctly, it actually makes finances a lot easier. So that's the key thing, is about understanding it and how to make you use credit rather than credit use you.
Exactly. So the next one we're going to tackle is interest rates. Now the reason interest rates is important for credit is because this is what determines the amount of credit in the system. The way it determines the amount of credit available in the system is by its level. So if interest rates go up, it makes it more expensive to borrow. And therefore, there's going to be less credit available going around the economic system. Conversely, it actually also affects your savings, because if interest rates do go up, then you earn more on your savings in the form of interest. And so it's really important that you understand how interest rates features within the credit system and who governs it. Now, can you just explain who governs it?
So who actually governs interest rates? So in the UK, it's the Bank of England, who meet, I think it's every 3 Thursdays, to decide the base rate. So a base rate is another term of interest rate. So what they do, they discuss what level they think that the interest rate should be. So once that is set, that actually feeds through to the banking system, and that decides what level banks actually lend to each other as well. And then once they decide what they will lend to each other, that filters through onto the consumers. So that feeds through into your credit card interest rates, your loan interest rates. So it also, the Bank of England's decision filters all the way through the banking system into the consumers.
Exactly. So it's literally like a ladder system. So at the top is the Bank of England. They're the bank of banks. Then you've got the banking system. Then you've got us consumers at the bottom. And it's literally like a food chain, a financial chain, essentially. The third theme is inflation. Now, inflation affects the price of items, everyday services and goods that you rely on, that you depend on, that you need, including your food, electronics. So your phone, for example, again, it affects the pricing of that. Now, the reason that it's important to understand what inflation is and what it does is because of its feedback into the level of interest rates. I'll give you an example. We had Brexit last year. As a result of Brexit, the value of the pound fell. Because the value of the pound was falling, it made it more expensive to buy stuff that we need, like food, electronics, all your gadgets from abroad, which we get from abroad. Because inflation is now rising, the way to tackle it is usually by raising interest rates. Now, the catch-22 for the government is the fact that if they raise interest rates, yes, that tackles the problem of inflation, but at the same time, it affects the economic activity by reducing the level of credit available. Like we said before, if you raise interest rates, the amount of credit available goes down because of its
more expensive.
Exactly.
Well,
So it's a bit of a catch-22 because we know the economy is not doing as well as it could be. So if you raise interest rates, you're going to affect an already struggling economy. But if you don't raise the interest rates and inflation keeps rising, you're affecting everyday consumers like ourselves when we're going to Tesco's, Asda, Sainsbury's, because things are just becoming more expensive.
and then how raising interest rates actually reduces inflation, because obviously the key thing with credit, because credit's now more expensive, we're less likely to go spending. And when we reduce on our spending, that will slowly bring down the level of inflation. But that also, by reducing your credit spending, that's actually reducing economic activity as well.
Exactly. So it's literally like a feedback system, as we've said. So give you another example. If interest rates now go up, it makes it more expensive to borrow, which also makes it expensive for companies to borrow and invest. And if companies don't invest, they're not going to hire people. Less jobs, less money within the system in the first place. Families start struggling, households start struggling, and it keeps feeding into itself. It can become a cycle. On the flip side, though, raising interest rates benefits people that save money.
Correct.
So, like I mentioned before, if, for example, I've invested £10,000 and interest rates now go up from 1% to 3%, that's going to have a positive effect on my savings because I can start earning more interest on that money I put away. Yeah. So this is how the credit system works. Another example to give you is, for example, right now we know credit is cheap because the base rate, the Bank of England base rate is at all-time low of 0.25%. So if I borrow now and I can invest that money into something that even earns maybe 2-3%, can you see that automatically
You're winning.
Yeah, you're winning. So it's literally as simple as that. And it's really important that when you see these words come up on the news, you understand how that influences and impacts your finances, because it does. Whether you like it or not, they do. So if inflation is going up, you also want to know what the government is doing to address that, because at the end of the day, that's eating away into
You're spending.
yeah,
That's the saying.
you're spending as well.
Simple diagram says the apple costs £1, but now the apple's costing £2.
Exactly, and no one wants that, essentially. So again, a great way to also understand how that feeds back into your investment is if inflation is now 3%, but you're earning less than 3% on your savings because interest rates are low, that means technically speaking over time, the value of your money is also going down through that. So this is just something that we wanted to do quickly to give you a quick insight into the economic system and how it works. And as the more that it gets into your psyche, the more you can start understanding how to apply it and leverage this information to your advantage.
Yeah, because I say this is just a simplified version of the credit and economic system, but it's basically how the actual financial crisis that we've just come through essentially happened. Although yes, it was a little more in depth than this, but it's basically this cycle breaking down at the credit stage, which led to inflation going up, which led to interest rates going down, and the economy being in a state that we're still actually recovering from. We're still actually fully through it. But yes, this is just a basic, simple model that we just want you guys to understand and get to grips with, so then that you get a better understanding of your own finances.
Exactly. So we're going to leave it there for today, but definitely hit the subscribe button. Send through your comments, your questions. If you want to know more about this and how it works, specifically how it relates to your finances, just hit us up and we'll be happy to answer your questions. Until next time, stay tuned for more.
Stay in touch.
Bye.